Ray goes into training for the biggest fight of his career, Jake LaMotta and the world middleweight title. Ray knows it will be no ping-pong match. Middleweight champion Jake LaMotta is in training, deadly serious. Jake is always beautifully prepared to go the full 15-round distance, if necessary. And with Robinson already being compared to legendary welterweight kings Henry Armstrong and Mickey Walker, LaMotta goes through his workouts with only one thought: stop Ray Robinson.
I remember that evening because I had fought Jake LaMotta 6 times. We fought LaMotta. I won 5 times, and he won 1. And this time was a 6th time, and it was the only time I knocked him out.
After having 5 fights with Jake LaMotta, who was still the middleweight champion of the world in 1951, Ray signed a contract to fight Jake for the title.
Going into the 1951 middleweight title fight with LaMotta, Robinson's record was 120 wins, 1 loss, and 2 draws. I don't think that record will ever be equaled in the entire history of boxing.
Ray decided that maybe he needed a little extra edge and he was going to try and psych out LaMotta.
Ray liked to get this raw beef, you know, and he had an old orange squeezer.
The steak would go in there raw, and they would crush the steak.
You'd squeeze it down with a glass there and drink the blood.
And he had to drink that for stamina.
During the contract signing luncheon, Ray had the waiter bring out a glass of blood, and he drained it right in front of Jake, who, like, you know, his eyeballs rolled back and he got kind of nauseous, and then he offered one to Jake, but Jake really didn't want it. But he thought Ray was crazy.
The match was finally made for St. Valentine's Day, 1951. Robinson, brilliant strategist that he was, knew that LaMotta had trouble making the weight for this fight and decided to play the matador against the bull, and he made LaMotta work in those early rounds. By about the 10th, 11th round, LaMotta was pretty well spent, and that's when Robinson turned it on.
These are clean whistling shots, lefts and rights. How he can survive them, nobody knows.
And Robinson stopped the indestructible Jake LaMotta, and that fight came to be known as the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
And the new world middleweight boxing champion, Sugar Ray Robinson.
Back in the 1950s, most, if not all, of boxing was controlled by organized crime. The mob ran it. Frankie Carbo, who had been a member of Murder Incorporated, was the brains behind it all. And he had henchmen like Blinky Palermo, who operated in Philadelphia, who helped keep everybody in line.
I didn't realize that people could be so easily intimidated. I didn't realize people could be killed so easily, or threatened to be beat up, and threatened to get their legs broken and their arms broken. And these are things I heard about.
We know from Robinson's own lips that several times gangsters went to him in this period and just said, we don't want you to take a dive. Just carry this opponent or carry that opponent 10 rounds. We'll just bet the fight goes the distance.
During Ray's training for the LaMotta fight, he got a call one day from a man who identified himself as, "This is Mr. Gray." Now, Mr. Gray, of course, was Frankie Carbo. His first words to Ray were, "I represent the bull." Well, the bull was Jake LaMotta. And Carbo wanted him to set up to deal with LaMotta, where LaMotta would win, Ray would win, and then there'd be a third fight that anybody could win. And Ray just said, "I'm sorry, but that's the way I don't do business that way." And that was the end of it.
It was a pretty courageous thing for Ray to do at the time, considering that Carbo was the biggest power in boxing. And he got away with it. They didn't come after him at all. And I guess the reason was that even a man like Carbo had respect for such a wonderful fighter as Sugar Ray.